Perfect.
All right. So welcome everyone. This is an Access to Finance webinar organized by AMEA and by the Working Group on Access to Finance. And today we'll have ICCO Cordaid presenting their program that has just finished called ICCO STARS. And today we'll have with us Maurice Kops, Patrick Birassa, Idrissa, and Shaka presenting the results and also open to receive some feedback and questions from you. So we believe this is going to be a very interesting discussion that will also contribute to the Access to Finance learning agenda. And just before we start, I'd like to share with you the house rules. I would really appreciate if everyone can keep their mics off during the meeting. Also, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box and also ask questions at any time, also through the chat box, because we're going to be noting them and asking the panelists to respond in the end. So if you are ready, Maurice, we can start with perhaps a short introduction from all of you. And yes, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Felipe. That's great. Yeah, so my name is Maurice Kops. I'm the program manager of the STARS program, Strengthening African Rural Smallholders, a program that's implemented in 4 countries, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Senegal, and Burkina Faso. And today, I'll do this presentation with 3 of my colleagues, 2 from Rwanda and 1 from Senegal. So Patrick, Shaka, and Idrissa, would you like to introduce yourself also?
Yes, yes, I'm Patrick Birassa. I'm based here in Rwanda. I'm a country manager of ICCO, part of Cordaid, Rwanda. Also, I'm also an Access to Finance, microfinance advisor. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Shaka Francis. I'm also based in Rwanda. I'm the Value Chain Development Advisor for ICCO, part of Cordaid STARS program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Idrissa Ba. I am based in Senegal and working for ICCO, part of Cordaid, as a country manager for Senegal. So I was also involved in the STARS program as Value Chain Advisor and country lead for Senegal.
Thank you for all these introductions. So today I'm first explaining you in broad terms what the STARS program is about. Then we'll zoom into some of the activities we did with producer organizations / cooperatives. I use these 2 words to each other, meaning the same. And then we zoom in into some access to finance activities that we did, which is oriented to smallholder farmers who are the members of the cooperatives. But the cooperative played a central role in that in the organization of those transactions. And then there's room for Q&A, of course. Good. So the STARS program. Here we see a woman from Burkina Faso with shea nuts, and the STARS program is oriented to smallholder farmers or smallholders or rural people or farmers, whatever you like to say, ordinary people. And in each of these 4 countries where we work, 60 to 70% of the population consists of those farmers. Can you go to the next slide? So here it says 55%. Access to finance is very limited to small farmers. And the central problem in the STARS program that we have addressed is access to finance, in particular, access to loans that are used by farmers for working capital purpose. So to buy inputs or buy other goods. Later on, we diversified a lot in the product offering. We also looked at asset loans, leasing type of things, and we looked at loans, for example, to procure the crops, the warrantage loans that we'll talk about more, and various other products. So let's move on to the next slide. So this farmer, this Ethiopian farmer here with his oxen is not yet having access to finance. The outreach target, as agreed with the MasterCard Foundation, is 210,000. And as Felipe said, the program just ended at about, with an outreach of about 350,000. So it's a bit difficult to measure to avoid double counting, but it was in partnership with 19 MFIs to achieve that outreach to those small farmers. Yeah, next. So here we see some two graphs about farmers. I just took the case of Senegal, but the graph is, these graphs are very identical for each of those countries. What we see is that over time, the rural population reduced to about 55%. However, on the other hand, the population, the total population in absolute numbers increased to 9 million, from tripled from 3 to 9 million in the case of Senegal. So overall, the number of people living in rural area and the pressure on land has become very, more and more severe. People typically have about half a hectare. Households have about half a hectare, and with few animals, some livestock, some chicken, there's very limited alternative opportunity. You don't find jobs there, for example. And typically, we looked at farmers who were having food insecurity for part of the year. And that, unfortunately, is also true for a very large portion of these rural people. Next. So in the STARS program, we've adopted the market systems approach, market systems development approach, making markets work for the poor approach. And it goes with a very hands-on, practical research attitude, not academic, but understanding what is the real situation in an MFI, with a farmer, in a cooperative. So you figure that out by going there and asking questions. You go to a few of those cooperatives, asking the same questions. Then you come back and you reflect on it and you figure out what is the perception, what is the practice, what holds a certain transaction from taking place. So when you think in markets, you think in transactions, right? A farmer wants to have a loan. So it's a transaction between a microfinance institution and a farmer. Or a farmer wants to sell its produce. So it's a transaction between a buyer, that can be a trader, or a processor, or an aggregator for export, and a farmer, right? Inputs, the same thing. Knowledge is a transaction often with the cooperative. The cooperative can provide certain extension services, some other advice that can help farmers, members, to improve their business. Cooperatives also can play an important role in aggregation. So they aggregate for their members and then sell it in bulk to someone else. That joint effort of all the members together gives them a better negotiation position against a buyer. The same at the input side. It helps them to negotiate better prices and other conditions, and therefore improve the conditions at which they procure inputs. This is not a one-off effort, but constantly throughout the implementation of the program, we adapt our vision on certain improvements. New insights, new realities help us to adapt also what we do, what interventions we develop, and what the impact is on the farmers and perhaps on other stakeholders that relate to the farmer. And as a result, you can truly change the livelihood of those farmers, truly make them better able to make those transactions with MFIs, with their clients, and so on. Okay, let's move on. I will make the slides available afterwards. So in the STARS program that's oriented to smallholder farmers, we have 6 core interventions. In the first pillar, the access to finance pillar, we worked on loan product development, risk management, and capital mobilization. That's the funds that enable MFIs to lend more. And in the second pillar, under value chain development, we've worked on capacity building for producer organizations, strengthening input supply systems, and promoting business services or business development services. So next to these 2 pillars, access to finance and value chain development, we'll zoom into the value chain development. Shaka will very briefly explain to you what we did under 4, 5, and 6, because it's relevant, it's PO related, it's AMEA related. And then Patrick will take over and talk a little bit about the agri-loan product development, number 1, and then zoom into other loan products that where the producer organizations were very involved. Okay, that will come in a moment. Next to these 2 pillars, we have a 3rd pillar, that's the internal pillar, and that goes well with the market systems approach. You can go to the next slide, Felipe. That is what we call PEARL. Next slide, yeah. The program embedded reflection and learning, just another name for the M&E function. So by putting the M&E function central in the program and constantly forcing yourself to reflect on your interventions and your assumptions, you can adapt it, and that adaptive process, the adaptations, let me say, are crucial to stay close to the reality and to address real issues. Yeah, let's move on. So here we are at core intervention 4, capacity building of POs. Shaka, would you like to take these slides?
Yeah, thank you, Maurice. Thank you very much. And yes, let me take you through this intervention. And the first thing, maybe I would also, I think for AMEA, for the scope insight assessment tool. And basically, this was the tool we use in terms of developing capacity for PO. And the first thing we did was to assess what are the real gaps in terms of the capacity of the PO. And we used scope insight basic assessment tool. And from there, then we developed what we call the capacity development plan, which was really intended to improve, to see whether the capacity we do is really improving. Then at the end, we also had what we call a COBO survey. I just call it COBO survey, but we had what we call seasonal survey, and see how does the PO improve, let's say in terms of aggregation, in terms of access to finance, how is it really improving? And this could really help us to adapt our interventions. So through this, at the end, we also did the second scope insight assessment, to see how does the PO has really improved. And I know maybe I can't really share the result now, but I think we had a very good result and try to compare the first performance and also the last performance, the final performance. This also has to do in terms of improving aggregation, improving productivity, but also trying to see how does the PO also improve, their finance management, but also the organization and the service they really provide to their members. So basically, that's what we really do. We did on a PO, capacity building. So I'm going to be more quick, as Maurice said. Maybe we can go to input supply system, and then I also I provide a brief, probably we can really respond to questions in later. And then on the input supply system, I just given an example what we did in Rwanda. This was basically, the demand based. As Maurice have said, when you come to market development system, sometimes you do a lot of things in, what should I say, the moment you start intervention, you run that there's a lot of gaps that you need to close. And this also, to make sure that your program also is successful, you need to close those kind of gaps. So when we start our interventions, specifically in Rwanda, we had an issue, especially in access to seed. So the program was intervening in rice value chain, also maize value chains. So our seasonal survey, what we call COBO survey, it provides us with a lot of information that, the off-takers, processors, the rice millers, they're really complaining in terms of the quality of, products they are getting. And the most of this was the poor quality and also mixed of varieties. And this really, posed a very high challenge in terms of, marketing their produce. Another challenge is that they really had one variety which was already short grain, and then one season was really stuck in the market. So they're really not selling. So the program had to intervene. And so the main challenge after doing our assessment, we realized that the main challenge was the seed. There was a really poor and raw access to quality seeds. And this comes from, the seed production itself, where did the seed come from? So we really partnered with the Rwanda Agriculture Board, which is an institution with the mandate of breeding. And then we really, get involved in terms of, assessing the gaps in terms of access to seed, quality seed availability, supply, the demand. So we went in that. And then we went through the partnership with the Rice Miller Forum of Rwanda. So it's very critical that we need to involve, let's say the miller, the processor, the off-takers, because at the end, they're the one who are selling these products. So they're one who provide the key information in terms of, which one they really are a good variety in the market, which one, fetch high price. And again, they're the one who gives a good guidance in terms of, are we really getting quality from farmers? So we based our capacity building so through that kind of partnership. So we did a lot in terms of, strengthening the capacity of seed produce organizations, and also trying to make sure that they really work in collaboration with the breeding institution, which are research institutions, but also on the off-taker, and also the Rice Farmer Federation. So building this ecosystem gives us a very good information that when you bring different actors together, it's really very easy to get to see the gap that exists between the actors, but also to understand which act can really close the gap. And this was very interesting to us, because with the few years that we really did auto intervention, we really managed to develop the appetite of rice produce organization, seed produce organization, because we made sure that the seed production becomes more business oriented, rather than doing by practice, but a seed producer, makes money out of that. And then at the end, the farmer also, gets high production, because, it has to respond to the value of seed they are really getting. So this also really helped us. We left in the hand of actors, and we believe that it's really working smoothly, because there is that kind of connection, sharing information, and also closing the gap, because each actor has a role to play. Then we can move to BDS. And then as we are moving to BDS, as the most of the challenge we have in most of the projects that how do we make our results sustainable? You do a lot of interventions, but at the end, how do we make sure that most of the interventions we'll be doing, they're going to be more sustainable? And this is a really big challenge, because we all get money and the pump in, we train farmers, then after we go, yes, you can really get a good result, but at the end, how do you make sure that the services have been providing are more sustainable? So we came up with the innovation of coming up with the BDS provider, and this were a really fee-based provider. And then the BDS providers, we learned that there are three things you need to understand. One, you have to make sure that the service they provide, are they really, value for money service? And second, are this service really affordable? And then, third, does this create impact to the farmers? What to pay? So we worked with this one with the actors. We worked with the processors. We worked with the Farmers Federation. To see how do we really intervene. And our really focus was more to look at that. How does farmers keep getting that kind of capacity building you have been providing? So we did it with this producer organization in terms of identifying, the youth, active, educated, that are really trainable, that they can be providing that services, even if it starts there. So what we started was that we provide the capacity building to this BDS provider. Then at the end, they provide capacity building to the farmers on fee base. That means that the PO at the end could really pay some money to ensure that they keep on providing the training. So that was really to ensure that the service we are providing are more sustainable and they are going to be paid for. The value they created, was more interesting. That some of the off-takers were really interested with the increased productions. So by the time we closed our program in June, we had 30 BDS provider, of which the off-taker, the buyer is really paying for the service, because he saw that there was really increase in terms of volume. There was also increase in terms of the quality of the farmers' produce, and that's really told us that it's really possible that as you are doing your interventions, you have to understand that how your results going to be sustainable. But again, interesting that yes, free service are always free, and how it can be more sustainable. Maybe I can really end up there unless my colleague Idrissa, if has something to supplement, he can really add on that. Then we can really take question later. Thank you.
Idrissa, would you like to add something, or shall we just move on? From Senegal. In that case, where are you going now, Felipe? Yeah, okay. Why don't we? I don't hear Idrissa now. Patrick, would you like to talk us through some of the access to finance interventions, starting with ACAT, that's oriented to smallholder farm? Oh, sorry, there's Idrissa.
Yeah, I'm back.
Go ahead, Idrissa. Would you like to add something to what Shaka said?
On Siaka, yes. As he said, we used the Scope Insight tool to assess all the POs and cooperatives that we had engaged in the STARS program. And after that, we developed the capacity development plan. Particularly, what we have learned from that is that we have been able to improve the capacity of the POs during the STARS program. For example, in Senegal, one of the bottlenecks was that some cooperatives that have above the financial offer of the microfinance institution, with this capacity development, we have been able to facilitate them to access to loan for bank. So some of the cooperatives have been able, for example, for the marketing loan, to have access to the commercial loan from the banks. So that was due to the fact that we have used the capacity development plan to strengthen the capacity of some of cooperative to be able to develop a business plan. So from this business plan, the bank will able to support them and to make them access to fund so they can improve their business. So that's what I can add from what Siaka presented.
Thanks. I'm sure later on we'll get back more on access to finance for cooperatives, bankability as they call it in AMEA. Okay, so you brought us to access to finance. Patrick, can you talk us through ACAT, agri loan products, and then look a bit at the Warantage?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, we developed agri-loan products with the 19 microfinance institutions. You can see an example of Ethiopia, also Rwanda, it was the same, Burkina Faso and Senegal. And you heard about our tool, ACCAT, this agri-credit assessment tool. We know most of microfinance institutions suffer not understanding agriculture, even having loan officers not, knowing very well the agriculture. Why we supported MFIs to develop appropriate products that really respond to the needs of farmers. That tool, ACCAT, agri-credit assessment tool, takes an account every crop, what are the inputs, what are the different scenario if we take account on the profit side. Yes, every country has a different value chain, but in the example here we have is Ethiopia with 5 loans products with 5 microfinance stations in multi-barley, maize, vegetable, and the potato. What we saw, we really reduce the loan diversion. Then also we contribute to loan management of the loans. It was really appropriate, a very fair appraisal with the appropriate loan. This also increased the portfolio size, also the quality of loans. We saw, especially in Rwanda, I saw all agricultural loans now well below 5%. The PR portfolio risk was below 5% in agriculture we financed. And also it increased the customer satisfaction. I remember farmers said, at least now have a good communication with microfinance institution. They understand what we do. Before, they couldn't understand what DAP means. It was needing many explanations. The benefits for rural clients, we saw the increase of the productivity, effective loan utilization, of course, better access to inputs, and the loan, the purpose of the loan really was the right one. Thank you. The next one. Yes. Maurice, I can say a little, but you can add on. Actually, gender was again a key component of our program. In agri-loan, we surpassed the 50%. In Rwanda, it was 58% of women taking up loans. And we use this methodology, rich benefit and power framework. And the ACCAT also contributed also with the shift from collateral to cash flow, enabling women to access individual loans. And we made many publications. Perhaps Maurice, I know you can say a lot also about gender.
So,
thank you.
So the graphs that you see on the right hand side here relate to outreach for loans, right? So clients, the gender of the clients who take loans, but it goes, so that's typical MFI client, but it goes beyond that. It's also about, and this is a publication, maybe it's also something to share after the meeting with the audience. It's also about the way how cooperatives are managing themselves. Who sits in the board, who sits in the committees. Typically, those are men, whereas if you look at who does the job, it tends to be women. And through advocacy, various strategies, we managed to also change that composition of the various committees of cooperatives and make it more gender balanced. And in some cases, have more dedicated committees targeting the female cooperative members. So I believe that publication can be relevant for the people, not just with regards to the MFI outreach, but also with regards to a more gender balanced management of cooperatives. So I think that's enough for this slide. Patrick, let's move on to the next slide about the asset finance.
Yes, Then when we made the analysis of the value chains, actually we saw most of the equipments used were still the traditional. You can imagine, Shaka talked about rice. You can see people still using the stick for the threshing. Then well, we said, let's also introduce the mechanization. Then we worked, we did advocacy on the registration. And also we went on the products. It was quite okay with the MFIs, but what was lacking was the ecosystem. The product, the financial product was present in the MFI, but you can see it lacks the whole stakeholders communication. Ecosystem was not there. Then it was about sharing. How do we ensure the maintenance? This is a critical issue I see it here in Rwanda, where some cooperatives have equipment, good equipments, but they are dying in the storage. The maintenance is a key component. And also microfinance institutions, even though they're expert in the lending, leasing, but the procurement of assets, it's especially for leasing. We're talking about machinery. Sometimes they're not present in the country. How do you ensure the procurement? That one was, with this what we need a program like support on that side, because it can be expanded further. We did the pilots with the rice threshers in Rwanda, and this I can tell you a bit about the solar powered the water pumps in Senegal. In Rwanda, you can see the machine. This is the thresher machine. We partnered with the kind of equipment provider here in Rwanda called Evergreen, and we try to provide some more equipment, as you can see, under leasing. Thank you. Idrissa, can you go on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. In Senegal, yes, we have done some product development on access to solar pump. So it was a business model developed with the microfinance institution, the service providers, and the cooperative. The shame was that the service provider and the microfinance institution both give the loan to the cooperative, so they can access to solar pump to reduce the cost of irrigation. And with that, we have been able to facilitate farmers and cooperative particularly to access to this particular product, and they can pay this product in 2 seasons, in 2 years. So that was a very innovative product that is that facilitate farmers to not only reduce the cost of water irrigation, but also improve their productivity in the farm. So now with 2 microfinance institutions, we are scaling up this product now with a new project also funded by MasterCard.
Felipe, can you go back to the previous slide? It's still on the asset loan. This was still on the asset loan, the previous slide, please. Yeah. And yeah, Idrissa, I don't know if it became clear to the people, irrigation was always there in some parts of Senegal, but it was through a diesel generator, diesel-powered generator.
Yes, it was diesel generator, and the diesel was the cost of diesel was very high, and farmers tend to abandon their farms because of the increase of the diesel. So that's where we came and developed with the microfinance the solar pump product. So to reduce the cost of irrigation, and mainly the cost was reduced from 60%. So that allows cooperative to come again to have their farm and to cultivate the onion and the potatoes. And the innovative of this model was that we include as well the service provider, the solar service provider, who took also a risk, partly with the microfinance institution, to allow farmers to have access to finance to reduce the cost of irrigation and to improve their productivity. So now more and more farmers are going from diesel to solar in the Poti area, which is the main areas of growing onion in Senegal.
Yeah, an unbelievable business case. Very, very attractive. Okay. Idrissa, would you immediately move on the next slide where we talk about Warantage? What is the involvement of the cooperative there? How does it work? What is it achieving?
Yes, in the STARS program as well, in particular in Senegal, we have developed the warehouse lending product because in the past this product was developed in Rwanda, and Ethiopia, but not in Senegal. And with the STARS program, we took the opportunity to develop the product. The things is that farmers was facing difficulties to have good prices at the harvesting period. So and as we were working on the cowpea value chain, and cowpea is the price of cowpea is very fluctuating from the harvesting to the end of the marketing. It can be multiplied by 4 or 5. So what we have done is to support farmers and cooperative and microfinance institutions to develop a model that they can both take risk and make farmers access to loan at the harvesting period, so they can store their product, and after 2 or 3 months, they can sell it to the market with good prices. So we have done it with different crops, with cowpea, with millet, and with other cereals. And so as a program, what we have done is that we piloted the product, and we adapted the product and also put it at scale. But also we have supported cooperative to better manage the storage facilities, and also strengthen their capacity of management in terms of planning, and also in terms of product of producing. So with this product, now farmers have a good position in the market on negotiating. So, and particularly in cowpea. So this product also is very attractive in the cowpea zone. So, and we have two MFI in Senegal, UFM and also Kori as well, who are very, let's say, engaged on this product.
Great, thanks, Idrissa. Patrick, would you like to add some comments on Rwanda?
Yes, for Rwanda, actually, we saw that warehouse receipt Warantage helped to decrease the burden of the collateral. When cooperative have harvested, the harvest itself becomes like a collateral. They can get around 60% or 70% of the total storage. This is also was good with the output loan. Sometimes giving output loan as a cash without any backup, sometimes it's difficult for financial institutions. Here, microfinance like Duterimbere, they appreciate so much this product. But again, with the value chain, we tend to have some improvement. With maize, we did a lot of warehouse receipt, but these days we have a good buyers who can buy immediately the harvest. This is again not yeah, it's again improvement. It can we need to refine it when there is improvement like that. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Is there any next slide? I believe this is the end. Isn't it, Felipe? Anything else? No, there's nothing. Great. So thank you. And thank you also, Shaka, Patrick, and Idrissa for your comments and additions. I see a number of questions in the chat. How do we go about it, Felipe? Do we address them first, or do we go in voice?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you to you and your team at ICCO Cordaid for the presentation, for sharing 5 years of learnings from 4 countries in less than 40 minutes. This is definitely not an easy task to do, and definitely we have a lot of questions and you have lots to share with us. So I would say, yes, let's first go through the questions in the chat box, and then open to the public again to ask more questions.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go from last to earlier. Hedwig of Agra asks us for the business case on the equipment finance. So referring first to Senegal, the business case for the farmers, maybe that's what you call SME, is very obvious, because first they had quite an expenditure on fuel to power the pumps that pump the water from deep in the soil. So the operational cost became practically zero when that diesel-powered generator got replaced by solar panels, and solar panels do not take much maintenance or take any other inputs. So that is a very clear business case. In the case of the rice threshers in Rwanda, we did most of the investigation ourselves, and we saw that there was a quality improvement. So there's less broken rice if you pull it through a rice thresher, and there's also slightly higher quantity, because you don't lose any rice on the that sticks to the that stays on the ground or whatever. So we looked at a 20% to 30% improvement of that post-harvest revenue. There are a number of assumptions. It's a bit less strong, but we, in both cases, we did that first before we went to explore further how it can actually work. And in this case, it's the farmers themselves who operate the machine. So it's not external service providers who drive around to provide the machinery. Right? I'm roughly correct, isn't it, Shaka, Patrick, with the numbers on?
Yes,
right
maybe I can. Yeah, maybe I can just add something small, because especially, I mean, the thing we are looking at, at the beginning was that one, there is a post-harvest loss on the side of the farmer, using a stick. The first post-harvest loss is that, most of the pad lice, they just spread in the field, because, they're not using the machines. Really, there's a lot of post-harvest loss. Another one was, broken lice, of which is really huge on the side of the millers. When we did an assessment with the millers, they are really losing a lot. I think it was between 10 and 15%. So you see, there is a double loss: the side of the farmer, the side of the side of the miller, of which the broken lice were really regarded as as rejected, used for animal feed, not really for human consumption. So when we really introduced these machines, was really huge an improvement on the side of the farmer, but also on the side of the miller. So and that's what the really strong business case.
Yeah. Very good. Obviously, there's also the time saving, right? But that's not so easy to convert into money, into earnings, because that's it. So that we didn't take into account.
But also on the gender perspective, as Maurice, maybe, because most of the threshing are being done by most of the threshing are done by women. But becomes very easy for women, and the saving times.
And unpaid labor also. Sometimes say unpaid labor. Yes, and that issue is for gender specific.
Yeah. So it should not be forgotten, indeed. Okay, moving on to Marise's question about the shift to cash flow from collateral. Now that shift is not like from today to tomorrow. We do not require any collateral anymore. That's not the case. It's a gradual shift, and it sort of it's stronger with one loan officer or with one MFI or with one country than the other. Don't take it like from tomorrow. There's no interest anymore in collateral. No, that's not how it works. other learnings, I would say the thing that stands out for me is the loan amount itself, because the more group-based $100 loan that is sort of blindly given, not based on the actual need, tends to be too little. So you can imagine that the inputs that are bought are not enough for that land. You don't get an optimal production out of that land. So if you get the appropriate amount, it can be that it's deducted with savings, for example, but altogether you have the appropriate amount and you do invest it in those inputs, it will give a much higher revenue on your land. So adding, let's say 10 at the input side may increase the output side with 50, right? So the marginal investment is bringing a very good return. So that would be another learning. There's quite a lot of different things that we've done and that we studied around ACAT, and perhaps we can also share a document about it. Another question of Hedwig. Hold on. Oh, those are new questions. I'm moving the wrong direction. Okay, which banks in Rwanda, Burkina, and Ethiopia are now using Scope Insight in their loan appraisal? We did not focus on that aspect. So to promote Scope Insight for loan appraisal, but we used it rather for our own appraisal. So we in the diagnostic stage, and later to see how far it evolves, we use Scope Insight, and another tool that's more an internal tool that we call our Kobo tool. I have to go Scope Insight. Yeah, so financial institutions do further assessment. That's also what Shaka said. Can we know about the loan products developed? Yeah, I think so. That's what this ACAT is about. This is from Oniakitan, George. So this is perhaps something that we can share more about how that works. Then scope assessments, reports used by the POs to prove. Yeah, I think that's what Patrick said. It was somehow used, right? I'm not sure explicitly. Patrick, would you like to say something about where the scope assessments, Scope Insight assessments used by the POs to prove their bankability to the financial institution?
Surely. We microfinance actually appreciated our interventions because they have been interacting with sometimes they have poor cooperatives. Getting great performing cooperatives, this has been a big help. They can even provide other financial products, meaning the performance of the cooperative matters. And with the STARS, even though we took average cooperatives, it was between 3 to 4 not score. Those one actually were able to even to build the capacity, as Shaka said. Those one were the one again, Microfund said, those cooperatives are totally different from the ones who have been dealing with. The poor cooperatives is always with the other problems like governance. MFIs will not be interested at all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Maybe I can supplement on Patrick on that, on maybe on Hedwig question that as Maurice said, that MFI, Scope Insight is not our own assessment tool, but it's really a tool that help us to identify the capacity development, the capacity needed for the PO. But the only thing that's interesting to MFI is that when the PO has a good Scope Insight results, it really increases their confidence. For example, if you look at the Scope Insight performance in the area of management, in the area of access to market, in the area of financial management, it's really increasing, the MFI, confidence in the PO. that proves that the PO is well managed, and they're really confident they can really manage their own. However, as I said, that MFI have other tools, and they do further assessment to ensure that they really provide their own. But really, it creates a confidence, impression that they can really manage their own and they can pay them their own. And when you look at those kind of dimensions in the scope insight assessment.
Yeah, thanks. Great. So then I jump on to Marise's question, whether we have a guideline on what is affordable capacity building, like how much would you like to invest per PO? And then Mark responded to that with a learning paper that we published a few months ago, which we called Sustainable BDS Services. And it's a comparative study between the 4 countries, why in some and in others not, POs are willing to pay something or maybe nothing for these type of services. What did we do different in each of these countries, and what in the context, in the environment, made that some of these POs were willing to pay for services and others were not. So Mark also shared the link to the publication. Perhaps Philippe, it's something to add to what you send around to the people, because I personally also think it's a fantastic story. We cannot always just be rigid and say, no, you cannot get it for free. In some contexts, you want to give things for free, but you want to work towards a more sustainable system where the recipient of a service is also truly the client and pays for it. So that thinking is very important, and it's well described in this publication. Okay, then we go to Margaret's question about farm service centers. So we did work with several farmer service centers. It's initially promoted by GIZ, and with a number of them we partnered, and we still continue to partner with them, especially with Lursha. It has a number of branches, and right now, I mean, it's a long story what we're doing right now, so I'm not going to do it, but there's a partnership with Wasasa and with Busa Gonova, especially in the context of Ethiopia. Okay, I think I'm going now to the end again. Okay, Mark mentioned that we have just commissioned, or AMEA is in the process to commission a study to dig deeper on the various, let's say, PO support activities that we undertook under STARS. So there is a terms of reference that we just finalized, and that will be commissioned in August. We expect a report of an international consultant somewhere in Q4 this year. And then Marise lastly said that also came out of the data analysis. Okay, okay, internal management and 3 financial management are drivers for access to finance, right? Yeah, okay. I am now scrolling further up a little bit. Okay, Hedwig has a follow-on question on the rice thresher. If the rice thresher is financed by a loan and interest, is that good enough to pay back the rice thresher? Yeah, we think it is, but the problem is you cannot do it. You cannot pay it back in one season, right? So that's also where maintenance and utilization of the asset comes in play. if you can use the thresher only for a week, it's harder to make a business case than when you can use it for 4 weeks. If you also thresh the fields of all your neighbors, and if maintenance is unavailable and you have to write off your rice thresher in 1 season or maximum 2 seasons, then there's also no business case. It needs to run for 4 years, and then there's a fine business case. So you get more into the space of asset finance, leasing, than in the space of working capital loans. And obviously it is not a working capital loan, it is more of an asset loan, and therefore the repayment has to be longer, which is indeed a challenging term for an MFI, but not impossible. Okay, I hope I went over most of the questions, but if people want to hear something more or different in these last few minutes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice. Yes, I would also just invite the audience to pose your questions with the mic. If you have any questions, also feel free to use the mic instead of writing in the chat. Or if anyone has a follow-up question, would like to elaborate further their previous questions, please also feel free.
Okay. Then in that case, it seems we've said enough. Mark.
Yeah, I think we're done, and I just want to thank Cordaid, the whole team there, and as I've indicated, we will be working very closely with them on the case study, but also some forward-looking initiatives as well in terms of hopefully EMEA Rwanda. The team is keen on taking that forward. So any members or partners who really want to engage on that discussion as well are welcome as well. But thanks again, Cordaid, and we'll certainly be putting this up on the website and promoting it, and hopefully generating more conversation around access to finance.